So this is a very warm welcome from as I introduce myself, well-oiled, family-focused psychologist Ilse Alberts. And today I am going to explore on how do we adapt to our changing environment. We have had to face significant changes in our worldwide environment the last couple of months with the COVID pandemic, and possibly a bigger adaptation to a changing environment it has been expected from us. And I decided that I want to have a conversation today with a very interesting man. But before we do that, I want to just remind you, if you want to comment, I am using StreamYard, and you must tell StreamYard to give you permission. So just click and say, I give permission, and I would love to hear from you. Where are you listening from? And as we go along and we talk about the different strategies that's wise for us as people to adapt to, so that we can learn to adapt to our changing environment. So today I'm introducing you to an internationally published botanist. A botanist is someone who has studied plants, a master's degree, Jacques Nel. And Jacques, how many papers did you publish internationally again?
There's been 4.
4 papers. So a very warm welcome to you, Jacques. And I'm really looking forward to explore with you how can we learn from plants, because you made a very interesting comment when I was talking to you about my plan to have this interview with you. And you said that plants have an amazing ability to adapt to an ever-changing environment because they have to. They can't up and go. They rooted into Mother Earth. And that has really ignited this interest in me, because I'm so challenged the last couple of months with learning how do I adapt to all these changes in our environment due to the COVID pandemic. So I wanted to talk about 5 different ways that we as humans can learn from plants. And I want to remind you, if you want to add your comments, ask questions, please remember to give StreamYard permission that you can do that. So Jacques Nel, our botanist, that is going to be sharing with us today. And I will be asking you questions, and I'm also going to ask you, Jacques, to help me then to bring it back to us as human beings, how we can use what we learn from plants. So what is the first lesson that we can learn, and from which plants?
Okay, well, thank you very much for the introduction, Ilse. I would like to first start off by talking about our local indigenous plants over here. It's a vegetation type called fynbos. So for those of you from around the world, fynbos is from the Western Cape Town area. It does occur in other parts of the world, such as Argentina and Australia, but we are very well known for having incredible diversity. Just as an example, there are more species of plants on Table Mountain than there are in the entire UK combined, just to give you an idea of the diversity over here. So starting with fynbos and talking about the adaptations that we have to overcome. So fynbos, just a little bit of a background, is a very harsh environment. It's very nutrient deprived. There's not a lot of nutrients in the soil. It's a Mediterranean type climate. That means that we have winter rainfall and very hot, dry summers, which obviously is not ideal for plants. And then finally, fynbos is what we call a fire-driven ecosystem. So this means that fire plays a very big role in the reproduction of the plants, as well as distribution of them. So fire, nutrients, and drought are very big challenges that the fynbos community faces every day of its life. So taking it one step further, we can look at and see fynbos, because of these multiple different challenges that it has to face, we tend to find that there are massive number of species in the fynbos communities. So the diversity has definitely increased massively. And this is because of the pressure that's been put on these plants and these communities in order to adapt and survive to an ever-changing environment. So for instance, just some of the adaptations that they would have done, for instance, would be, we get a lot of bulbs over here. So bulbs are geophytes, that is plants that grow from a bulb underground. They tend to just pop up when conditions are great, and they can go hide under the ground when they aren't. So that's one strategy that we see. We also see other strategies where the leaves tend to be very small and almost folded over. There's a very popular group of plants called the ericas, and ericas tend to have leaves that are folded over like this, so that not a lot of water can escape from them. So these different adaptations definitely go to show a point that the more challenges that you are exposed to, the more and different strategies you can come up with in order to solve these challenges.
Thanks. So, Jacques, I just want to quickly say hello yet to Grace watching us from South Africa, Sigrid from Brisbane in Australia, Leslie from Johannesburg. So it's so great to see people from different parts of the world watching us. So when we think of the way that fynbos has this amazing ability to adapt to their changing environment, and they learn to really diversify, I'm also thinking how we as a human race then, how we currently adapting to the changing environment that the COVID pandemic brought to us worldwide. And I'm thinking, for instance, about school children today. They can't just, in all parts of the world, get up in the morning, go to school, have their classes like they always have, go to break, sit in circle with their friends. They can't do that now. So they had to learn all diversified ways to adapt to a new school environment. And one of that is, for instance, so many children are now getting their school education online, or pairs will be going to their homes and helping them with their homework, or tutors will be doing the online teaching in supplementation to what the teachers are doing. And parents have also become the teachers at home now. So those are all very diversified ways that our children had to adapt, and families, moms and dads, teachers had to adapt to that big change in our environment. We are, I'm talking to you from the Western Cape and the winelands in South Africa, and many of our school children are not even back to school yet. They are going back in stages. And there's even talk that because our numbers are still increasing, the COVID numbers are still increasing, that there's even talk that they will go to a lockdown for schools again. So parents and children and teachers had to learn to continue with their education in a very diverse way. And I think that what we can learn from fynbos is what we can see is busy happening with so many people, many families. So what is another lesson we can learn from plants and how they are adapting to their changing environment?
Okay, so another example that I'd like to bring up is that of the acacias. Now, acacias are the classic African savanna tree with the nice umbrella top. You see them in all the movies, beautiful. In fact, they are Australian as well. We get acacias in Australia. And technically, Australia is the harborers of acacia. In South Africa, we actually call them something else, but let's not get into that. So the interesting thing about acacias is that they have thorns, at least the ones in Africa do. Now, thorns are an adaptation that plants have basically created through many different lineages all around the world. And it is to defend themselves from herbivores and from insects and all sorts of things that are trying to eat them. So thorns is a protective measure. So interestingly enough, in the African savanna, we can look at acacias and determine what their main challenge is just by the shape of them. Now, the reason I say this is that savannas also are fire-driven ecosystems. They experience fire, but they also experience herbivory, which is lots of antelope and lots of animals busy eating at them. So if you look at an acacia, they have two different distinct growth forms. Same species, they have two different distinct growth forms. If there is a lot of fire in the community, and fire is the main challenge that they experience, they will tend to try grow straight up and try escape the fire that is coming along the ground. So you'll see that they have long poles of stems, and then the tree actually opens up at the top. So that is your classic acacia that you see. Now, a second type of acacia, or second growth form of acacia, is that of an acacia that experiences a lot of herbivory. So it's got a lot of animals eating it, and it actually needs to protect its leaves from animals rather than fires. Now, instead of growing a long pole shape up to escape the fire, these tend to create a cage around their leaves. So you'll see the shape of the whole tree is a big bushy cage that is impenetrable from all angles, so that the animals can't actually get to the nice juicy leaves. So this shows us that even within the same species, depending on your different challenges, different solutions are definitely needed to accomplish the form of adaptation and to survive.
That is absolutely amazing. I never knew that is why the acacia has that, why the acacias grow like that. I want to tell you that we have Dawn Peters that's just joined us as well. And Secret said, yes, they do have the acacia in Australia as well. I just want to tell you that I am busy following your comments on my phone. So when I look down, that is what I'm doing. So Jacques, let's look at how do we then learn from acacias, because different challenges require different solutions. So when I go back to the school of today, where children can't just freely go back to school in many parts of the world because of the desire to curb the infections of COVID. So if we look at the example of, for instance, the maths teacher and the drama teacher, a maths teacher will require different solutions in educating and teaching the math students, the drama teacher. And if I have to think aloud, I would say a maths teacher can possibly adapt to and apply a different solution to a drama teacher by the maths teacher doing it online and the drama teacher acting as a tutor, and where it's possible to get small groups together and tutor in person, wherever that's possible. Also, the drama teacher can get, if it's not possible to do anything in person, bring them together on one screen and create a whole drama lesson like that, where the maths teacher will do it one-on-one. So that is different challenges. So a math teacher will experience a different challenge to a drama teacher, and they have to learn how to adapt to their different challenges. And I think that we are seeing that is really happening in our world, that people are adapting. Children are adapting. And although I am experiencing an increase in depression under teenagers because of their social isolation, there's also different ways that they have learned to adapt to their changing environment. And thank goodness that we get social media, because that all the different platforms on social media has become the different ways that the teenagers of today are adapting to their changing environment, and they house party on screens now instead of house party, for instance, in someone's home. So let's look, what is a third lesson we can learn from plants?
Okay, so another lesson that we can definitely learn from plants, And this has got to do with adaptations to living in a very marshy area, so a wet area. So in fynbos, we tend to get a plant community called restios. Now, restios is basically what we use to thatch our roofs with. It's a long reed, looks like a really long piece of grass, but it is very, very common in the fynbos. In fact, it's a defining feature of fynbos. Now, we have restios that grow in very marshy areas, lowland areas that tend to be flooded quite often, because we do also have mountains in this area that basically have water flowing out of them throughout the year. So some areas will be very, very wet. Now, plants, although they need water to survive, their roots also need oxygen because their roots are actually undergoing the process of respiration, which is oxygen intensive. And without oxygen, the plants will actually die. So restios have overcome this, or at least some species of restios, should I rather say, have overcome this by creating hollow stems in which they are able to move oxygen from above their leaves into their roots through their stem. So instead of the oxygen coming from the soil, it actually comes from inside the plant itself. And this is how they overcome a very flooded area. Another example of completely different plant community in a completely different part of the world would be that of mangroves. I'm sure everyone knows what a mangrove is. We tend to get them in estuaries and salty, sort of marshy areas close to the ocean. And again, these grow in water. And what we tend to see is they grow buttress roots. So you'll have a big stem, and then you'll have roots sticking out the side like this, all the way around, coming down. And even you'll see roots randomly popping up, just small little roots out of the water. And this is their adaptation in order to get oxygen to their roots and to be able to respire and grow. So what we can do there, or what we can see over there, is that a common challenge can often be solved using different solutions as well.
It's absolutely fascinating. I wish that we could just learn to grow extra roots, because you know what Grace is saying, that adapting is uncomfortable. Yes, adapting is uncomfortable, but we as a human race have the amazing ability to adapt. And we are talking about how can we learn from plants to do that. And if I listen to what you just said, Jacques, common challenges require different solutions. And if I look at our business people of today in this changing COVID environment, we had to learn to work from different places. You might be working from the spare room in your house, or you made yourself a little corner in the garage of your house that is now your where you are working from. Or maybe you have a skeleton staff that's going to your offices, and this week these amount of people go, and next week there another amount of people go. So we are adapting with different solutions to a very common challenge, because so many people are now working from home, and the kids are at home, the cats are at home. In fact, you know what? My cat just walked in, and I thought this is so adapting to my changing environment and just not bothering about it, because she pushed my door open. I had to get up and go and close the door. And Secret is saying to us as well, absolutely so true, Secret. Adapting can offer so many new and exciting opportunities. Because for me personally, I have always wished to take my work more online. But COVID and lockdown made it so possible for me to do it. And I'm currently working from my home bedroom in my house in the Cape Winelands in South Africa. And next week I'm going back to Johannesburg, and there I will be working in my home study in my other home. So we are just adapting, and I know that in many homes they are using all kinds of rooms, and the kitchen and the dining room and the bedrooms, all as different classrooms and different offices. And all of a sudden, we are really using our homes far more, because during the day, our homes would have been standing empty most of the time. So we are adapting by continuing to give our service to the world, continuing to work, but we do it in a different form now. So Jacques, what is another way that we can learn from and you know what, I just want to quickly say, Magda Lot says, only with the help of God Almighty we will survive this COVID. We must stay positive and thankful and take day by day and enjoy nature. Oh, absolutely, Magda. And that is what we are doing now. We are learning from Jacques how to really be more appreciative of nature and learn from nature. So what is another way that plants adapt to their ever-changing environment?
Okay, well, let's keeping with the water theme. There are some interesting adaptations that plants have evolved in order to deal with either the lack of or too much water. So, for instance, aquatic plants, you get your water hyacinth, your lilies, things that float on the water. They don't have the problem of not having a lot of sunlight, and as long as they are on top of the water. So instead of storing water, actually will store gas inside of bladders so that they can float on the surface of the water. Now, in complete contrast to that, if you look at a cactus, for instance, or a plant that grows in the desert, they have plenty of sunlight and not a lot of water. So instead of storing gas, they all actually store water in their cells for later use. And this shows us that while a challenge for some might not be a challenge for others, it's important to have unique solutions in order to adapt to unique situations. So, for instance, if you need to solve your situation using a bit of gas, so be it. If you need to do it using a bit of water, then that is also a solution.
So they between water and gas, that's absolutely amazing. Sure. And Paul just said, this weekend I enjoyed playing in the swell with my children. Truly appreciate nature. Oh, I love all these nature lovers. So yes, we are in a very unique challenge. And that is that so many people, children, families are all now working under one roof, one home, and school must happen there, business must be run, and the home must be maintained and managed as well. Washing must be done, food prepared. And I think the unique ways that people are finding solutions to adapt to living in one home, doing school, running business, running the household, and finding a different home, work, family balance is asking us to be resourceful and learn how to do it in a way that really serves the family. If I think for my family, for instance, we are each using some different rooms in our home to run our businesses from. I don't have children that is at school for a school going age anymore, but I know that there are many families who has created workstations in their home for their children to have their different classrooms when they do it online. So every unique challenge asks us to develop unique solutions that work for us. There's not a solution that works for everybody, but it is what works for you as an individual, what works for you as a family. So let's look at, give us one more lesson we can learn from plants. And I just want to see, so Sigrid says, when we have less and less rain and run out of water, we need to preserve it the best we can. And that is what you've just shared with us, how plants have such an amazing ability to do that. So give us one more lesson we can learn from plants.
So the last one, I think, is very relevant to the current situation that we all face, and that has to do with limited resources. So the example I want to talk about is carnivorous plants. Now, carnivorous plants are plants that eat insects, all sorts of things, little birds, whatever they can, depending on the plant. We get sundews, we get Venus's flytrap, which I think everyone knows of. We get pitcher plants. There's a whole array of them. And the defining feature of them is that they supplement their nutrients by actually eating animals. They get it from organic sources. And the reason they do this is because there just isn't enough nutrients in the soils that they grow. So, for instance, nitrogen is a very, very important substance for plants and animals, likely, but for all life, in fact. But if nitrogen is limiting, the plants will definitely struggle to grow. So what they've learned to do is, instead of relying on the soil, which is very impoverished, they would rather just supplement their diet by eating an insect or something like that. Excuse me. So we can see that the plants don't just wait around. They actually make a plan and they look for a different source altogether.
Great. So they look for different resources. Okay. How are we currently adapting to our changing environment and we make use of different resources? Well, let's look at all the different ways that people are making an income now, because there are people that lost their jobs, or a percentage of their salaries, they had a percentage cut of salaries, or they decided to just change the way that they do their business. And there are so many different new ways that people are having an income now or supplementing their income. For instance, I know so many people that has created online businesses. I spoke to a young woman about 2 weeks ago that a week before I spoke to her, she launched an online business selling baby clothes. She's never done that before. She's never thought of doing it, but she needed to supplement her income because her husband's salary was cut, and it made her so innovative. I know of another young man who loves brewing craft beer, and he started during lockdown to brew his own craft beer. Now he's selling beer first to his friends, and people are tasting it, and more people are wanting to buy his craft beer. I know of another woman who started to make homemade muesli, and in her community WhatsApp group or Facebook group, actually, just said, I'm making this very healthy muesli, text me if you're interested. And she started to make a supplementary income from that. I also know of people that's never even thought of offering their service as a tutor, but they have time at hand now, and they say, let me offer my service as a tutor. I know that there are many agencies offering a tutor to interested parents and children, but there are also those who really want just a tutor to help them just get through life in many different aspects. And then the way that I have adapted and diversified my business is I am offering 99% of my consulting to my clients online. I use Zoom, I use Skype, I use WhatsApp video, I use FaceTime, and I'm also bringing many online courses. So we are adapting by using very different resources. And I want to ask you, what are you doing? How are you creating diversity in your life? Because the change in our environment and this adapting to our increasingly changing environment in today's time is asking us to become diversified, to create diversity. How are you creating diversity? This has for sure given me the ability to create diversity in a much bigger way, much more creative way that I ever thought of before. And because I was almost forced into it, I had to take action steps, or become like a dinosaur and will become extinct. And I just realized I don't want to be a dinosaur. I don't want to become extinct. I love serving people far too much and adapt to my changing environment. So Jacques, if I listen to all the things that we can learn from plants, we must learn to diversify. The second thing is different challenges require different solutions. So we must learn to adapt with different solutions. We also looked at common challenges requires us to have different solutions. So even if most of us have the same challenge, it's important for us to also explore our different solutions. And unique solutions need unique challenges ask for unique solutions. So to really dig deep and say, but what is my unique solution that I bring to this? Because if I'm stuck and I say I can't and I don't want to, I'm going to really not get to the other side of this in a form that you say, wow, I made it. And then the fifth one is it is so important for us to develop different resources for the challenges that we are experiencing. So that brings me to what I want to just remind you of what I am offering as a different resource to parents, first of all, on Wednesday night, this Wednesday night, the 22nd of July, I'm offering my very, very popular talk to parents, not for the kids, but for the parents, on how I'm going to tell your kids about the birds and the bees. The event is on my Facebook group, Facebook page, Facebook profile, how I'm going to tell your kids about the birds and the bees. It is, the time is UCT +2, 1800 hours. And then for those women who wants to really learn how to embrace the changes in the environment and adapt and become versatile and really develop different resources and have a different insight into themselves and grow through it and become empowered and get to the other side of it as a empowered species of new insights and new growth. Come and join my next circle of women that I'm launching the 18th of August. All information is on my Facebook group page or profile, or you can send me a messenger, or just message me and I will send you more information. So I want to really, really encourage you. Go and think, what are the different ways that you diversify, that you adapt with different solutions, that you adapt with unique solutions, and that you make this ever-changing environment that we are currently experiencing an environment that works for you. So Jacques, with that, I really thank you for joining me. I just love learning from nature. If you also love learning from nature, let me know. And if you have any questions about this, I would love to hear from you as well. So with that, I'm signing off this week until next week again from Ilse Alberts, family-focused psychologist. And thank you again, Jacques, our botanist.
You're welcome.